Well, hello all you wonderful people out there in YouTube land, and welcome to the Texas Special YouTube channel. Now before you, we have a Kato Union Pacific SD38 equipped with Blunami. Now I'm not sure which, Tsunami Blunami. Now I'm not sure which specific decoder this one is equipped with. I was not able to get that information from this model's actual owner. This is on loan from Mr. Tait of the Texas Model Railroad Club for the purposes of a product review. And this is, Blunami, of course. If you are unfamiliar with Blunami, they are DCC decoders that can be ran by a traditional DCC system, or they can be ran via Bluetooth, and of course they are dual mode decoders, so it does work in conventional mode as well. Just FYI type of thing for you guys out there. If you happen to find one, say on eBay, it's already Blunami equipped, you want it but you're not sure, yes, you can run it without having to upgrade to DCC if you don't already have it on your railroad. Now, getting into the nitty-gritty of this, you can see that the model is weathered. Obviously that's not a factory deal. That was done by the owner of this engine. But if you look past the weathering, the lettering and decaling and paint on this thing is very nicely done. So if we scoot the camera over, we'll zoom in on the cab. Attempt to anyway. You can see that the UPY number 835 is nicely done. What you may not be able to pick up on very easily is the fact that the block lettering is outlined with the prototypically correct black striping around the red of the block lettering and numbering. You have the uprr.com right here below the number. You have the SD38-2 right there on the cab in the correct spot, and of course the little UP shield. You have the red reflective tape along the simulated reflective tape along the frame of the locomotive, and the trucks have outstanding detail. You can see the prototypically correct 3 brake cylinders per side frame. That's per truck, all the way around the model. You can see a little bell right here. The frame of the locomotive, the very bottom portion of the frame of the locomotive is visible underneath the sill of the locomotive. You've got the main reservoir here. You have the gauge, fuel gauge, the fuel sight glass, the emergency stop button, or rather the fuel filling nozzle. Everything that's supposed to be there is there. This engine has a prototypically correct 3-chime air horn located on the front of the cab. You've got the ratchet type handbrake, and these hand railings are a very stiff, well, not very stiff, they're flexible somewhat, plastic grab irons with the appropriate FRA compliant contrasting color here on the ends, and that's all the way around the locomotive. You've also got the FRA compliant contrasting color on the edges of the steps. Now this locomotive does have the correct pilot with regard to there being little, the steps not being just a solid plastic piece. There is actually gaps in between each step, and there's like a little shelf on the back side. Just little, quirks that a real railroader would know, being up close and personal with these locomotives every day. We scoot this guy over just a tad. We'll take a look at the long hood and the rear portion. You can see, of course, the Union Pacific nice and prominent along the long hood. You've got cast on grills here, here, and here. You have all of the correct hinge and latch mechanisms cast onto the body of the locomotive along the long hood. And there again you see more of the very nicely done truck detailing here, and we're looking at the conductor side of the locomotive. Very nicely done model. Okay, looking at the business end of this beast, we can see the Union Pacific shield right here, centered very nicely with the wing logo there, with the blue wings. We also see this nice reflective tape decal here. The safety chain is molded as part of the hand railings. You have the requisite MU hoses and a snowplow and some KD magnetic operating knuckle couplers with some rather long shanks. You have the Y835 matching the cab number there. You've got the windshield wipers on all four of the windows. The door on the front of the cab on the conductor side of the engine is cast on to the body of the locomotive. Along the rear of the locomotive we see some nice detailing as well. You've got this very long back porch here, which is prototypically correct. You have the MU hoses, the KD magnetic knuckle coupler. You have an MU receptacle here. You have a uncoupling lever, or uncoupling lever here. You have the crossover platform, which there is one on the lead pilot, I just neglected to point it out. That is also represented. It's molded on as part of the hand railing assembly. And you've got these separately applied freestanding grab irons here and all the way up the rear of the locomotive, also in the correct spot. And you have this little curved grab iron right here along the rear fan on the top of the locomotive, and of course the Y835 matching nicely with the front number boards and the numbers along the side of the cab. You can't really see it very well, but Kato did a very nice job with the walkways along the sides and on the pilots of this locomotive. It does have some molded stippling to simulate slip-resistant tread. Looking along the top of the locomotive, you can see there are cast-on grills with fan blades. Actually, those might be, yeah, those are see-through grills with fans installed underneath. You have the two exhaust stacks. You have this vent above the turbocharger housing. You have some nice rivet detail along the perimeter of the turbocharger housing hatch. You have lift rings that are cast on to the top of the locomotive in the correct spots. And that's pretty much it. You got a nice little shot of the air horn there. And if I scooch the camera over just a little bit, you can see the sand filling nozzle right here, as well as a freestanding separately applied grab iron. And if I scooch it over just a little bit more this way, you'll see the same right here as far as the sand filling nozzle. And you get a little bit better view of the freestanding separately applied grab irons that run the full height of the long hood. Now, as is the general modus operandi for newer locomotives, newer HO scale locomotives, I guess I should say, you have electrical pickup and traction across all wheels of the locomotive. So this thing has 12-wheel power, pickup, and traction. I say traction because that's what we're used to calling it prototypically speaking, so that's just what I'm going to stick with. And you can see the perforated speaker housing there of the fuel tank. Now, as you saw in the beginning of the video, this locomotive has a very realistic, well, I guess as you heard in the beginning of the video, locomotive has a very realistic startup sequence, and I'm gonna take a stab at running this thing with the Blunami app. So we'll turn the power on right quick like, and we will fire this thing up. So the first step, you find the locomotive. Obviously, after you've turned the power on to the track and made sure the locomotive is properly on the rail, you open up your Blunami app. You can see it's scanning, it's thinking, and you can see right there Blunami 1.0. So we'll connect to it, and you'll hear a little kind of jingle. So standard, since it's only one locomotive and only one train on the rail. You can adjust the volume. Oh, excuse me, that's the horn. Short, long, bell, headlight, forward and reverse. This is your throttle. And you hear it going through the startup sequence. Also, another cool thing with Blunami is you have this drop down menu. If you hit functions right here, you have this drop down menu of all the functions on the decoder. And you can actually go in, like we'll check momentum, off, on. So, off, on. You can even go in straight to 8. And back down to idle. Increase the RPM. Decrease the RPM. Dynamic brake. And we'll go here to functions 15 to 28. Handbrake. Fuel loading. Straight to idle. You have all kinds of cool features on here. Cab chatter. Grade crossing sequence. And you can also go under the settings option, the little cog wheel, and you can actually go in and change whatever you want. So there's no need to set this engine aside on a separate programming track with the Blunami app. If you have a locomotive that is equipped with Blunami, or you're thinking about getting one and putting Blunami in it, or you have a locomotive you want to put Blunami in, then pretty much anything anything you can do with a standard DCC system, you can do from your phone. And that also works on DC railroads as well. So you can run a multi-engine lash-up on your DC railroad, so long as you have multiple Blunami-equipped locomotives, as well as adequate power to handle the sound and motor current draw that multiple engines, however engines you're going to put on your railroad, can handle. So we're going to look at, this engine has directional lighting. You can see there the headlight just came on. We'll nice smooth start and stop. This is speed step 1. And you can see the engine there is creeping along rather nicely. I neglected to mention, you can either increase and decrease speed with the big green bubble, or you can hit the individual and go one speed step at a time. Now, since we've got them fired up and we got the railroad hot, we're going to couple up to this test train we have sitting in the siding and see how this Kato SD38 with Tsunami Blunami handles these 18-inch radius curves of the Stars Hollow Railroad, as well as the uneven grade.
There.